This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
All his radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free 800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. All social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And you can visit us online and listen to the show 24/7, 365, www.xzoneradiotv.com. Nicholas P. GINEX is my guest this hour. He is a lover of humanity and a seeker of truth. Using facts and not opinion, he exposes misconceptions spread by religious and political organization. While theology, engineering, and science were his fields of academics, history, philosophy, and humanities are his fields of research. Joining me now is Nicholas P. GINEX. And Nick, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing good, and it's always an honor to be on your show.
Hey, listen, I would love to congratulate you on 2 articles that you have written and are getting out there. The first one is entitled, "The Obama-Iran Nuclear Deal Must Be Stopped," and the second one, "Obama Continues to Lie to the American People." Let's start off with Obama-Iran Nuclear Deal Must Be Stopped, Nick. What's the story behind the story?
Well, it's a story that developed by really Obama himself and his way of trying to get a nuclear deal with Iran. Mm-hmm. The way this article really started is that I had accumulated a lot of information with respect to Obama's influence with his religion, and a lot of people don't really understand or know that he was born into a Shiite family, and in fact, he had been trained in a few years in his youth in the Quran. So this has had an influence on him, and I got this kind of information after doing a lot of research and writing the books, Allah, We, Our, and Us, mm-hmm. And then I followed that with Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. It was an accumulation of information that I got over the past few years. But then when I heard President Obama give his speech on July 14th of this year, where he was promoting the Iran nuclear deal, I was very upset to see that he's not being truly honest with the American people. So I had to write the article, "The Obama-Iran Nuclear Deal Must Be Stopped," to show that there are flaws and that his goal to achieve a peaceful way to negotiation with Iran was not really going to materialize, and I don't believe that goal will be achieved. And there's a very intrinsic reason for this. And I was able to understand why there is a problem with the Muslim communities throughout the world, whether it's Iran or other areas. and it is basically the dogma of their religion. And a lot of people do not understand that. Many people, in fact, even Muslims themselves, have not read the Quran. But I was fortunate enough to do this when I wrote several books on religion. I had to read the Quran line by line. And it was after this particular research on my own that I realized it was the information or the dogma of the Quran itself that incites bigotry and hatred and violence, whereby they're taught that their religion is the only or true religion and that it will survive over all others. This is what really sets the mindset of many Muslims. And we have got to understand, and when I say we, the leaders of countries around the world, they have got to realize they are fighting an ideology where the Muslim leaders are still trying to form a caliphate and dominate the world with their religious dogma. And knowing this, I was driven to write the articles because I'm trying to not only inform but educate people that there's a real problem that is not going to be solved by simply an Iran nuclear deal. There's a much deeper problem, and that is the problem of how these Muslims are indoctrinated since they really come into the world. But I'm going on a little bit too much here. I would like for you to help me focus on maybe a few areas in the article of Rob.
Yeah, well, I just wanted the audience to get the feel from where you were coming from, Nick. And, you know, in these days, everybody is so politically correct. You know, it seems that political correctness is more of a disease than any other time in history. And when it comes to President Obama and the lies and the Iranian nuclear deal, what, in your opinion, is his ultimate goal with this deal? If so many people are being able to see through the smokescreen that he's been laying.
Well, what I was trying to show in two articles, the first one talking about the deal itself, why it is in fact not really achievable, and the second article basically that Obama himself really cannot be trusted. He has lied to the American people ever since he's been in office. And talking about the politically correct, he started this particular philosophy, or I don't know, it's not philosophy, but manner of controlling information against Muslims and his religion, Islam, because he has in fact been indoctrinated. Few people, again, I repeat, realize that he was born from or into a Shiite Muslim family. He had a few years of Quran indoctrination. So he is very much influenced ever since he was a child with the idea of Islamic sort of teachings. And I believe it influences his ability to make decisions as an adult. We have that the decisions are really affecting the security of the United States, because even when ISIS became a force there in the Middle East, he could have stopped it initially, but he said, "Oh no, this is just a little." I don't know. He used a certain term that it was. It's a small group of people here who dissatisfied with whatever, but they have grown and they are establishing a caliphate in the area of Iraq and such, and they're becoming a threat to Iran. But they are in fact Sunnis for the most part, and this is the other real problem that people around the world have got to also understand, is the history of the Muslim people. There are basically two major sects, the Sunnis and the Shiites. And the Shiites believe that the leadership of their particular organization should be led by someone who is associated or in the line of heredity of Muhammad. And the Sunnis believe in a more democratic way, and that is the person who has greater ability as a leader. He need not be born from a Muhammad line. That is the type of leader they would like. So you have these two big factions, and they fight one another. And so Iran is starting to feel some of the pressure of ISIS, and Obama, being himself a Shiite Muslim, I believe tends to want to support Iran. And he has been weak in trying to solve the problem there, and it's only getting worse. The more I think about it, the more I say, what is a solution? The solution is not simply a negotiation of the nuclear treaty. It's more than that. It's really trying to change the mindset and thinking of Muslims, because they are so indoctrinated with the Quran, which is implemented by Shia law, that this is where the problem lies, because it is the Quran itself, and I've shown this in my book, Allah, We, Our, and Us.
Yes.
And I also took many verses and put it also in my last book, which is Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. I'm trying to show that there are many verses that incite bigotry, hatred, and violence. And it's this kind of mindset that has got to change. Unless that changes, where the religious leaders of the Muslim communities realize this is the source of their problem, we will have this problem for years to come.
But when we look at the entire scenario with what's going on with the Muslims in Europe compared to what is going on here in North America, we have it easy compared to what's going on over there. Do you think that the politicians are taking what is happening in Europe and other parts of the world where they have their Shiite patrols, where they have their own little areas? Well, look what happened in France not that long ago. Are the authorities taking this seriously? And if they are, why aren't there more stringent regulations and laws in place to prevent this from happening?
Well, I believe they are becoming aware. When we say "are," I'm talking about our American officials in government. However, we've got to understand that the Democratic Party is very strongly controlled by Obama. Apparently, he is a very thought leader. He manages to get his Democrats to follow him like little blind sheep.
Yeah.
But in spite of that, even the Republican Party, you don't see enough of our politicians actually trying to define the problem. And we go back to the political correctness that Obama established when he first got into office. He does not really permit any sort of words against Islam. And even today, he doesn't like to associate Islamic terrorism with the Islamic religion. So there's a problem within our own government where our own officials are not really identifying the problem. They're becoming aware because, as you say, in Britain and in France, they have a real problem because many of the Muslim communities in those countries have really established themselves where they're closed communities, where they only basically keep to themselves and don't integrate their people with the society they migrated to. And this is what causes France and Britain and Germany and even China they have concerns that because the Muslims do not integrate their system and absorb the values of and culture of their country, they're finding that there's a lot of resistance, and they're starting to push back. China, and I wrote this also in my last book, Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Even China is forcefully fighting back against the Muslim integration within their country. They realize this is becoming a threat to them as well. Unfortunately, in Britain and in France, the Muslims have gotten a really good head start. And I guess it's because these countries are a little bit more educated, they're lenient, they're tolerant, but it's gotten to the point that they themselves, their leaders, are becoming very, very concerned.
With the continuing problems that are happening in the United States, when we look at, here we are, Ferguson, a year later, and last night, rioting, police officers getting shot at. How can we say that we can handle this if we can't handle anything within the country that has been plaguing the country for hundreds of years? How are we able to...
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. And what you just indicated is that this is not even Muslim provoked.
Exactly. Exactly.
These are disheartened blacks, the poor, and they feel that they have not had the opportunities to rise into the middle class. Mm-hmm. But who's really at fault? You have Obama, a black man, who could have been a model of a man, who could have done a lot for the black people, and he has not done anything. He gives them relief monetarily, but that's not the way to rise them into another level, which is education. Without education, they are going to stay where they are for as long as each generation goes.
But Nick, doesn't that apply to any culture? Like, it's the same for a young white kid. If he doesn't have an education, he's not going to get anywhere. If you've got but so why does everything focus on the African American?
Well, it's a deeper problem because, unfortunately, with respect to the white culture, mm-hmm. they had a strong religious background in most cases. Religion does serve a very good purpose to teach morals and values.
Okay.
And there is the knit family where kids usually are brought up in a family environment. Unfortunately, with the black people, because they basically had a background of slavery, their families were not as strong and not as structured. And today it's worse, where the family for the black children is not the core that teaches them how to respect authority and to really think of education as a way to get out of the slums and make something of themselves. I have been very delighted to see that we do have in our country a lot of black people who have made it in all fields,
be
definitely. In education,
yep.
And even in government, we have some very very bright black mm-hmm. people who one has to be proud that they have done this. But that's the problem, because if you compare these people with respect to Asian people, for
mm-hmm. example,
yes, Asian people look at their family unit and education, and most Asian women and men that I meet are very well educated because they take education seriously. They're very well disciplined
yes.
because of their family units. And this is where Obama has failed. He could have tried to really drum into the black people the necessity to really hold on to their family units, and for parents to teach authority, discipline, and respect, and education. But he hasn't done that.
I had heard something from a guest that was on this show, I believe it was last fall, who said the Obama administration was an experiment that went all wrong. And this was from a politician.
Right. Right. The American people had great hopes with Obama. Mm-hmm. Even I, to me, here's a man who has made it to the top. I was always infatuated with his voice, his ability to articulate, and I thought, here is a leader that hopefully there will be change and he will be able to bring together the different races within America. But he has not done that. He's done the opposite. He has caused a break between the black communities. And whenever there is a black person who was shot by some policeman, he makes a big deal of it.
Yep.
And he has caused more problems and prejudice between the blacks and the whites than anybody else in our country.
And, there have been a number of instances over the last several months or even over the last year where a white police officer has been shot by an African American and it gets no media.
Exactly.
And that is so wrong.
And the thing that you never really hear from the liberal media is that most blacks are shot by other blacks, at least almost 8 to 10 to 1, not white people. And here's where the problem lies. So again, it comes down to the fact that here's a young group of black people. It's their upbringing and the lack of discipline and authority for our policemen. And now I think our police enforcement, they're starting to realize that, maybe we have to really integrate ourselves with the black communities and walk around and talk with them and get them to know that they're there to help them. It's a sad thing, but I kind of feel that Obama is, in a way, trying to induce this kind of bigotry and hatred because the blacks would be a very good way of getting them to join the Islamic sort of group.
Now you're getting to where I was going. What would
I believe that is an undercurrent, I believe, of his thinking.
What would happen, Nick, if the disgruntled members, because there's disgruntled members in any society, and I'm going to say this up front, there are good and bad in every religion, there are good and bad in every race. But what would happen, Nick, if ISIS, for example, let's use them, started recruiting the disgruntled African American youth and got them on their side? What would happen?
And that's what they're doing. As you say, it is the disgruntled people, be they white or black or any color, they feel that, this is another way or another path to make their lives better. And it's only because they're dissatisfied with their lives now, and they really have no idea how to promote themselves within this particular country. So they go to another path. And yes, what happens here is that the black Africans and black Americans are becoming a good source to promote them into the Islamic kind of thinking. And I almost feel that this may be a reason why Obama encourages the the influx of people through our southern borders. He doesn't give a damn to me whether they're Mexican, Spanish, or, in fact, Islamic people. And almost anybody can get through the border.
Yeah. It's a very unsettling time in the world, Nick. There's no two ways about it. Is there a solution?
Yes.
Is there a solution, Nick? Like, what happens if by the end of the next 2 months that President Obama is able to sell the Obama-Iran nuclear deal to all those who are required to make it law?
Yes. That is not a solution, because as I indicated in both articles that I have, I put on the internet, there is a problem. I call it the Obama-Iran nuclear deal. It's not just simply the Iranian nuclear deal. It's Obama who, in fact, initiated, promoted, and bypassed Congress, the Senate, and legislator. He himself is basically getting this particular deal going. But it's not going to be successful because, as I indicated in the articles, he really doesn't have 24/7 verification.
No, he doesn't.
And not only that, even worse than that, we do not have our own inspectors from the 5 prime members that put together the deal, which was Russia, Germany, China, France, the United States. They can't have their inspectors go and inspect the Iranian sites. The inspectors that are allowed to go into Iran are inspectors that basically belong to different organizations in the Atomic Energy Commission. And so this is another poor thing that we have negotiated. So we have given Iran really a long leash where they can do just about anything without our knowledge. And but I do have a solution. I've been thinking about this over and over again. Obama had indicated that unless we have this nuclear deal, there is no alternative but war. We will risk war. And that's his way of really trying to induce fear in the American people. Oh, gee whiz, without this deal, we could have war.
Yeah.
But there is a solution, and that solution is not something that can be done overnight, but it has to be done. It is the mindset of the Muslim people. I had indicated in other articles that the source of discontent that really causes the Muslim mind to think in terms of bigotry, violence, and hatred is what is in the Quran itself. A lot of people think, oh, this is a holy book, how nice. But they're not aware of what it actually says. So in the books I have written, again, I want to repeat them: Allah, we, our and us, and also the book that these articles are promoting, which is Islam, Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. These 2 books do have a lot of verses that I took right out of the Quran, unaltered. And I say, look, people, read these verses and learn something. This is what really indoctrinates the Muslim mind. They are taught that they have the true religion and it will survive over all other religions. And this is what motivates them to kill people of other faiths. Christians are dying all over the place in Europe. Their churches are being burned. Buddhists also have a real problem. Their leaders, their Buddhist teachers are being slaughtered, and their places of worship are being desecrated. And even China is finding that this is a threat to their people. So the problem lies with the Quran and, in fact, Sharia law. Sharia law is nothing more than the implementation of the Quran. So this is what people have got to understand. how do you solve the problem? There is a way to solve the problem, and it's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen with nuclear agreements.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to happen with a very important command that was given by a man of God. That man was Jesus Christ. In the Gospel of John, he said this 3 times, not as a thou shout, but he said it as a command. He said, I command you to love one another. This, to me, is what could establish peace throughout the world. If, in fact, the Muslim religious leaders realize that they have to revise their Quran and endorse the command that God has given, and this was the last greatest command, love one another, then there is a chance for peace. Without that, we're going to continue to have a problem with Muslims throughout the world.
But here's what I see as being the paradox here, Nick. If you have members of the Muslim community who read the Quran and do not look at Jesus Christ as Christians do or as Catholics do, isn't that a point of where we are forcing our religious beliefs on them and violating their freedoms?
Well, no, I tell you why. Jesus Christ said this particular command, but he didn't say that the Christian religion is the only religion. Mm-hmm. He simply said, love one another.
Right.
And this applies to all people in all lands. It's not just simply for the Christians.
Right.
And that's why I say, go ahead.
But what I was saying, Nick, is how can you... this would just be like the Muslim community telling Christians that in order to do something, they must follow what Muhammad has written. It's in the Quran.
Yes, but Muhammad did not give a command.
But if they do not believe in Jesus Christ, how can we, in all clear conscience, dictate to them and violate their rights as is written under current day and present law? I'm not saying you're wrong here, my friend. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just asking you as a point of legality. How do you do it? Because if that is the case, we are putting ourselves in the same situation that we see ourselves being faced with the commandments and what is in the Quran.
Well, the way to do it is, in my mind, is using this command for the Muslim leaders
mm-hmm.
to revise their Quran. We don't have to tell them how to revise it. I'm just simply saying, endorse that command. It's a command that's universal. It has nothing to do just with Christians.
I understand
and
that.
If they can do that. Now, the thing is, how do we induce them to do that? There is a way. Instead of simply the Obama-Iran nuclear deal, we provide incentives. There is an incentive or an agreement we could reach with Iran, and that is this. Look, we would like for your religious people and political leaders
mm-hmm.
to try to change the mindset of your people to learn to love one another.
But we don't have that right, Nick. You don't have that right. No, you're dictating your religious...
we don't have that right. I'm not saying that. I'm saying let them make that determination with this incentive. We, the U.S., will in fact give that $150 billion to Iran by decreasing the sanctions.
Mm-hmm.
We will do something more. We will actually build their nuclear facilities whereby
mm-hmm.
they will have nuclear energy throughout their land. However, the stipulation is no development of a nuclear bomb. We will have continued surveillance and verification that they are not building a nuclear bomb. If, in fact, we do find that a nuclear bomb is being built in secret,
mm-hmm.
that site will be bombed and destroyed. Not the Muslim people, that site. Now, this is a way of at least saying, look, we're telling Iran we're going to infuse $150 billion. We want to give you a nuclear energy. We are allowing you to build up your country, giving you an infusion of money to increase your economy and educate your people. And that way you will be able to become a partner with the global community around the world. But you have to look at your own problem, which is the Quran itself. Now, I agree with you, Rob. It's a very difficult thing for religious leaders to say, oh, my God, our holy book has a problem. But unless they realize that, Rob, we are going to be faced with this particular problem as long as the Quran and Sharia law exists. It will continue.
But what are we opening up here, Nick? Are we opening up a can of worms that will have dire circumstances worse than what we're facing now? Are we going to start telling other religious organizations and religious philosophies what they can do and what they can't do? And if they want to play ball our way, we're going to give them money, we're going to give them this and the other thing? And if they don't want to change... wait a sec. If they don't want to change their religious beliefs, if they don't want to change their religious doctrine, if they don't want to change their religious books, we're just not going to play ball with them. We're going to ignore them. We're just not going to deal with them at all. Is that fair?
No. I'm saying, look, there's a way we can do that in a very amicable way, and that is we don't want them to change their Quran totally. In fact, throughout the Quran, many passages refer to the Bible and Jesus and many Abraham. It is intertwined with the Bible and of course the Gospels. What I am saying is that they have got to recognize that there are verses in the Quran that need not be there. They are verses of hate. And unless they realize that, they are the source of the problem.
Well,
now you're saying, well, we don't have any right to tell them what to do.
That's right.
But aren't we telling them what to do with the Obama-Iran nuclear deal?
So
we're saying, look, we're going to give you $150 billion, but we want you to stop development of the nuclear bomb. But notice we went only halfway. In 10, 15 years, they will be relieved of many of the restrictions, and they can go on their merry way and develop the bomb. So we will have the problem, if not today, in a decade, there's going to be a real problem because Iran will have developed into a stronger military power. And this is where the United States is making a very big mistake. Isn't it better to face and confront the problem today with the solution I advocate, where you challenge their religious leaders, get religious leaders in Judaism, Buddhism, and Christianity, all say to Iran, look, we want peace. We believe in the command that God gave, the greatest command, love one another.
Was it God or was it Jesus? Was it God or was it Jesus? Was that command given by God or was that command given by Jesus?
Everything that Jesus said was given by God, and he claims.
All right, but once again,
he claims he is a son of God.
But Nick,
he is not God.
Nick, what we're saying is that our religion is right, their religion is wrong, and this is what I don't agree with: is dictating how one should practice their religion. I don't think that anyone. I don't think anyone has the right to force another to change what is in their holy book, Nick. And I think that will never fly.
Again, let me emphasize: I'm not saying force. I'm saying let the religious leaders of the other religions around the world pressure Iran to simply follow the word of God.
But you're not
love one
pressuring.
another.
You're not pressuring Iran here. You're not pressuring Iran. You're pressuring the people, the followers of Islam and the believers in the Quran. That is just not Iran. If it was just Iran, I would agree with you. I would agree with you.
Well, when I don't know, you can't separate Iran from their people. I'm saying that it's not simply the Muslim followers.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, they are led like sheep. It is the Muslim religious leaders. They are the ones that, in fact, have to recognize they are the source of the problem. And what I'm advocating, love one another, is not such a bad command. It's not a very difficult command to follow. To love one another is a very natural attribute that the American people and other people around the world have. It's inherent in the nature of mankind to love one another. The thing is to recognize that and to follow it.
But it does not have to be written in their book. Their book does not need to be changed in order for that to happen.
But you learn from the written word. And as the words are written in the Quran, it is simply a manual. It is a manual of hate.
Well, wait a sec, Nick. Wait a sec,
problem.
Nick, let's not... There's hate in the Bible as well. In fact, God in the Bible was a very hateful person. He killed everyone on this planet, every living thing on this planet, except his chosen people, Noah and his family. Then he destroyed Sodom. Wait a sec. He destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. He destroyed thousands upon thousands of Egyptians because he favored... Wait a sec. He favored the chosen people, the Israelites. So what's the difference here?
You're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. What you're saying is that nothing is perfect. Mankind learns from what he has done in the past, but mankind, and if only to progress to the next stage of human development, they've got to recognize that their holy books are not correct to or perfect, that we learn and we've got to learn from our mistakes. And we've got to be able to aspire to the next stage of human development, which means is recognizing the problem. And until we could recognize the problem, it will continue to exist. Sigmund Freud said, unless you define the problem, you cannot solve the problem. And that is why in a number of other articles and in my books I have written that science and education is extremely important. They have got to learn that nothing is that precise or accurate. We got to learn from the past and correct the mistakes. And I advocate that history, a religion has to be taught in many of our high schools and colleges, and learn that these religions are not infallible, that they are simply a beginning for mankind to make the next step in their development. And unless we realize we've got to clean up those mistakes, we're going to keep making those mistakes.
I agree with you, Nick. I agree. However, I don't foresee anything happening where you're going to get every religious belief on this planet together to form a coalition in order to try and get the Quran changed, because that would be opening up the floodgate for other religions to dictate to other religions what they should have in their holy books and what they shouldn't have.
All right. Well, Rob, the challenge therefore relies with all of these religious leaders. The one important thing for religion is to teach morality, is to teach people how to lead decent lives. And in fact, the one common command I believe that most religions have is for all people to learn to respect one another. And all I'm saying is, hey, why can't they endorse the command, love one another? It's a very simple command. It's not saying my religion is better than yours. They should all say, let's get that command into our holy books, and let's emphasize it to our youth so that we get a new generation of people where they learn to love and respect one another. That is the command of God.
Well,
that is, to me, the greatest command.
Well, if you believe. But it is not a law where someone has to believe that your God is right and my God is wrong. In fact, the law is there.
It has nothing to do with one God. It has to do with only a command.
Of a God, a deity. A person that you believe is the person that dictates or who rules in order to...
But isn't this the kind of command that all religious leaders are teaching their people?
What is taught and what is forced are two different things. Didn't Hitler try something like this where he tried to get rid of the Jewish people because he didn't like them? Isn't that what we're... Wait a sec. Isn't this what we're saying? That we're right, you're wrong. You change or else you should suffer the consequences. I would look at something very much simpler. Don't let them into the United States. That's it. Don't let them into countries where, you don't want to play by our game. Leave, like I've said many a times. Where the airplane lands, it takes off from. You don't like it here, go back home.
That is happening right now. You're correct.
Yeah.
Britain, France, Germany, they're starting to realize that they've got to stop the influx of Muslims into their country because it's hurting them economically as well.
Sure.
Not only morally and taking away their own culture and their own values. So they're starting to realize that they have a real problem. But I agree that is one way to solve the problem. And maybe by solving the problem that way, we will be challenging the religious leaders to take a step back and say, hey, maybe there is something wrong with our religious dogma.
There you go.
Maybe, and the thing is, though, for all of the other religions to constantly emphasize God's greatest command, love one another. And if we can make that the voice throughout the universe, you're going to be able to weaken the mentality of the Muslim leaders to say, gee, maybe we have to go in that direction.
If they want to practice the religion that they believe in, hey, unfortunately, they've got the right to practice wherever they want because of the political correctness. Nobody asked me if I wanted to be politically correct, Nick. No one. And that kind of pisses me off. Because I wanted to be asked.
It happens that I have met some very knowledgeable Muslim people who left the faith.
Yeah.
In fact, Dr. X or Dr. Riemann, who has his own website, he has many distinguished authors, painters, and writers on his website to preserve his Persian culture. All of them have left the Muslim faith because they realize it is a religion of death. When you have Muslims in Iran saying, death to America, death to Israel, even death to Britain, this is also another one, it's a problem. And they, however, these Muslim people, they are educated. Education is the way that allows people to realize the failure or the faults of their particular history, and their religion. And fortunately, there are smart Muslims who left their religion because they realize it is, in fact, a religion that is against human nature. It doesn't cause the integration of the races and of love. Eventually, that might happen with Iran.
But we're just not talking about Iran because, you see, I think, Nick, that people are focusing and on the Iran-Muslim issue as the only issue, but it's not. It's just not the Muslims in Iran that are the problem. It is a global problem. So just by focusing on Iran, is this going to change anything?
Well, it is a global problem, and it's a very serious one, because all of the Muslim sects, I don't care whether it's Iran or Iraq or Palestine or Syria or whatever,
Canada, the United States,
they all follow the Quran, let it be known. And they all advocate instituting Sharia law, which implements the Quran. So they are constantly using this documentation that really transforms their mind.
Nick, whether it's President Obama or whoever gets in power, the new Senate, the new Congress, I can guarantee you one thing. They will not go after the Quran. They will not go after any religion, because that is what democracy is based on. Freedom.
No, they don't have to go after it, but they can advocate that all religious scripture should endorse the concept of love one another.
They will. They will not. Though.
Don't force it on them.
They will not, though,
Don't force it on them.
But they won't.
But advocate it. Advocate it. Let all people around the world realize that this is the command of God.
Okay, Nick, it can be done without changing the Bible. It can be done without changing the Quran. It can be done without changing the whatever book, any other religion. It can be done without changing the Torah, for goodness sake. It doesn't take the religious practice to do this, Nick. It can be done with people.
Rob, another thing that I wrote in my book, because I am a man who looks towards the future with a certain amount of optimism. I'm saying that what we have learned in the past, and though we've had people who had somehow gotten some sort of revelations from God and wrote scripture, it doesn't mean that it is to be poured in concrete, never to change. Do you know the Egyptian religion, the Egyptian priests, over thousands of years, revised their religious doctrine from the worship of many gods to finally worship one universal God, Amen. Or they called him Amen. Amen. But that shows that people can change.
Yes, people can change. But
Scripture, let me make this point.
Sure.
Scripture is not cast in concrete.
You're right.
People can change. People can realize that there's a better idea. There's a better way to advance mankind to the next level of development. And I'm saying that our religious leaders, our political leaders, not only here in the United States, but around the world, have got to realize that we should not be strapped to the particular doctrines that we now exist as in our holy books, but to rise above it and improve it. That's why I really endorse education of religion, because people will start to compare each religion and start to realize the faults that exist and start to understand that there is a better way.
Let me ask you this, Nick. Is it possible that in today's day and age we don't need religion? That religion itself is the root of all evil?
No, I tell you why.
Why?
I thought about this many, many times, because in our world, we have many areas that are deficient with respect to the people themselves. There are a lot of people who have not been brought up with the wonderful education that some of us have today. I was privileged to have gotten a nice public school education. I went through high school, college, and I was able to learn about many things in life. Right. Education is a way of breaking away.
Okay.
And so that's one way of learning about how to get along.
Right.
But there are a lot of people who do not have the resources financially even to bring up their own children. Mm-hmm. They may be poor. They may not have the education. They are ill-equipped with time and money to bring up their own children. What is the answer? The answer is religion is a surrogate parent. Religion is a surrogate parent, and that's why I say religion serves a purpose, because they bring into their house of worship people that are all looking for the same thing, and that is to get along with one another, to love one another.
Okay.
This is what religious teachers are teaching.
All right.
This is what the Buddhist leaders taught.
All right. If that is the case, then why do we need to change Islam?
Because it doesn't mean that you teach religion that we stay with the religion of the past, but we grow. I have pointed out that since the Egyptians were able to rise above their religious values to a higher level, we need to do that today.
Nick, Nick, first of all, we're running. I've got about a minute and a half left. I didn't play any commercials this hour because I wanted to make sure that we could both, you could get your points out, which you've done a fantastic job.
Okay, thank you.
But listen, my friend. I don't think that changing the religion is going to work. I think you'll find that there's going to be just more than the people who read the Quran who are going to be dead against the suggestion of changing one's religious book. I think that this is going to be a bigger problem than just getting the people around the world as a global community to understand that love is the answer.
Okay, the alternate solution, Rob, to me, it's the next best thing, and that is education, where we teach the different religions in all of the schools through every grade level.
Nick,
so that they learn and compare.
Nick, I hate to do this, but I'm right out of time. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Let's pick up this very interesting topic another day in the very near future. Until then, my friend, take care of yourself. Always a great pleasure and honor talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye now.
Bye now.
All right, at X Zone Nation, that was Nicholas P. GINEX, www.futureofgodamen.com. And just go to Nick's website. I don't agree with making people change their religious views. In fact, I'm dead against it. I don't care who you are. It is your right to believe. It is your right to practice. Let's just remember what happened during World War II with Adolf Hitler and the Jews. We'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.